let's get started with what we're going to talk about today, which how to apply to VC Lab. So to begin with, VC Lab, as I mentioned, is the leading accelerator for venture capital firms in the world today. Just last year, 2022, we helped accelerate half of all new venture capital firms launched worldwide. And this year, we're at pace to do even more. So we're not only growing the market, but we might even be this year, let's say 60% or so of the firms that are launched everywhere in the world. And what's been happening is we have what's called the Net Promoter Score of 88. And to give you a sense of how Net Promoter Score works, it goes from -100 to 100. And really anything over a 60 is astounding, like Apple's over a 60, and 88 is kind of unheard of for something that has a lot of usage. And so we have an 88 Net Promoter Score. And what that means is that, you know, everyone in the program is referring lots and lots of people to apply. So getting in is very difficult. And I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know to increase your chances to get in. So just to give a sense of scale, we'll have maybe in cohort 12, 3,000 people apply, and maybe 300 and maybe some 300-ish and 3,000-ish will get in. So a rough 10% of all the people that get in or apply will get in. And, you know, keep in mind that a lot of the people that are applying are referred. So it's like someone who knows the program is like, this is going to be amazing for you. You should definitely get in. They're advocating with us to let them in. So a lot of slots are taken by referred people. So it's just very difficult to get in. But I'm going to give you all the little secrets on to give you the best shot, because we want to try to help as many people as possible to enter the asset class of venture capital in alignment with the Mensarius Oath of ethical investing, because our goal isn't to make money. The program's completely free, but our goal is to really transform venture capital into a force for good in the world. And I want to talk to you for a minute about that. We're in trouble. The world is in trouble, okay? Everywhere I look, the news goes from bad to worse. Apparently, we've sucked so much drinking water out of the ground that we've changed the Earth's axis. And we cut more trees down in 2022 than ever before in history, despite all the we're not going to cut trees down and everything else. I mean, it's just everything you read, it's like, wow. Really, it's like going from bad to worse. We need to stop this insanity. And the best way that I can think to do it is start investing in solutions that are going to make the world better. And that is venture capital. Venture capital bets on risky ideas that are often a harebrained idea. And it gives entrepreneurs with these harebrained ideas a shot to try and commercialize their products. And if we can start taking shots on goal to fix the planet at scale, we have a shot of reversing all the damage that we've done for generations, right? And that's why VC Labs exists. That's why Decile Group exists. That's what we're trying to do, right? That's our why. That's our what, and that's our how. We want to turn venture capital into a force for good in the world and hopefully have many billions, if not trillions of dollars of capital per year directed to things that matter and are going to fix this planet. Okay? So we want to help as many people as possible. We want you to get in. We want you to succeed, right? This is why we're doing it. Like, we're trying to change what venture capital looks like, turn it into a force for good in the world. And we're not going to do that by taking people who were venture capitalists before, blah, blah. We got to take new people. We got to take people that don't understand venture capital very well. And we got to make them venture capitalists because they want to make the world a better place, first and foremost. Okay, so let's jump into some tips, tricks, advice to applying. So the first kind of, and I'm going to share my screen. We got Niels on here. Niels, if for some reason I have some connectivity issues, just ping me in the chat. But everything going well though? Thumbs up? Okay, perfect. All right, so hopefully, all right, there you go. So the first thing that I would say that everyone here should do is go to govclab.com and go to the insights section and start reading the stuff there, okay? So just scrolling down right here, there's an article talking about all the new stuff that's coming in cohort 12. We got a thesis evaluator, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And all this stuff are things that you need to know in order to be a world-class venture capitalist. And so you can just browse around and find things. Oh, I'm interested in launching an impact fund. Well, here's venture impact metrics, impact venture funds, right? Oh, I'm curious how VCs make money. Well, here's VC management fees. There's another really good one on that. VC financial, where is it? Oh, venture capital management fee model. So you could pretty much find a lot of things that you're curious about there. And as your level of knowledge goes up around venture capital, your application will get better and your likelihood of getting into VC Lab will go up. So just get it, you know, and unfortunately, the internet is littered with a lot of junk when it comes to venture capital. So you have to find a source that's actually writing accurate things. And I can tell you right now, there's only one, and that's the stuff that we're writing. Because I've read a lot of the other stuff, even stuff by organizations like PitchBook or Carta are just wrong. And you're like, how is that possible? And I'll tell you how it's possible, because they do content marketing, okay? And so they have writers that write stuff, and just to get eyeballs for their products and services. And what we do is we're like, wait a minute, that stuff's all wrong. We're actually trying to write the accurate stuff about how the model works, because we're in the quote unquote business, even though it's free, of training people. And if they're reading all this stuff on the internet that's wrong, it's bad. So our goal is just like, we're going to make everything we write correct so that, you know, people can actually learn how to do venture capital and versus read a bunch of content marketing that's most of the time wrong. Okay, so when you go to govclab.com, you're going to see this big apply button. It's not going to, I have to go in an incognito window for you to see it, but it will take you to an apply page. You fill out an application, and I'm going to show you right now how we process your application. Okay, I'm going to take you into our back office and show you so that you can understand how we think about your application. So I actually created an application for myself called Mr. Testy. Right here, all the fields that I filled out populate the back office, right? And then we go in, our admissions team goes in and we score you, okay? And then you're going to get a score 1 to 5, all right? We review everyone regardless of score, okay? Because obviously we score you, so we review you to give you the score, and then there's other steps of reviewing even if you're scored. But if you score a 1 or a 2, it's almost impossible for you to get in. We're primarily letting in 4s and 5s, okay? So I'm going to show you how the scoring works so you can understand how we think about things, okay, when it comes to admission. So this is going to be very special. I'm showing you like way inside how it all works. So the first thing we looked at is your LinkedIn, okay? So we're going to look at, and I'll pull up the profile. How many followers do you have? Okay, so in this case, I have 31,000 followers. And what's your background, right? What have you done before, right? And we'll go in and see your whole background, right? Read everything. Have you done investing? Have you done angel investing? Are you on boards? Everything else, okay? And then what we do is first we score how many followers you have. Your background really matters, okay? If you are not investing currently, take some savings, save some money and invest, but try and get 1, 2, or 3 investments. The difference between someone who's done no investment and even one investment is a big deal, right? So, and AngelList, you could start investing with as little as like a few $100s. So you don't really need troves of money to begin angel investing. You can angel invest with almost any amount on a platform like AngelList. So if you haven't done any investing yet, it's not terrible, right? Because you could have an amazing background running an accelerator or being the CEO of a bank or whatever, but it's, you know, doing investments is the ultimate preparation for becoming a venture capitalist. So you, as you can see, prolific investor and exceptional background. It's not or, and exceptional backgrounds at number 5. An investor or a strong background is number 4. So you want to start investing so you could get a 4 in your background category. And ideally, you want to also have an exceptional background. Now let's keep going. So the next thing we look at is your thesis. Now, I swear everybody scores 1 or 2 on this. It is horrible. It is so easy to write a good thesis, guys. You know, it's shameful that people put trash in here. So we have an article, Crafting a Winning Thesis with ChatGPT, okay? So we actually tell you here how to write a thesis. And then you can take your thesis, right? And you can paste it in to ChatGPT and it will evaluate your thesis for you, right? So we literally have a tool to take your thesis, put it into ChatGPT, and get ChatGPT to give you some constructive feedback on it before you submit it to us. And I can tell you that 80–90% of all applicants don't get above a 2 on this, which is horrible. So spending a little bit of time on your thesis, and now again, you just go back to VC Lab Insights. The number one thing is VC model thesis, the thesis of crafting a winning thesis with ChatGPT. There you go. It will tell you how to write a great thesis, and that will help improve your application pretty dramatically. So if your fund size is too big, you're going to score badly, right? 100 million, 25 million. But if you just have a reasonable fund size, under 25 million, and a half decent thesis, doesn't even have to be good. It says viable thesis. You get a 4, okay, on this, and almost nobody gets a 4 on this. I mean, it's so easy to do. It's shameful. So I'm giving you the tools. I'm giving you a big hint here. The next thing is need, okay? You got to have the time to start a fund, okay? The reality is it's 25 hours a week, but you're not going to get a 4 unless you can put 40 hours a week, all right? If you have to be very honest with yourself here, okay? If you can only put 15 to 25 hours a week into doing a fund, you can't launch a fund, right? You could launch maybe a syndicate on AngelList or something like that, but you can't launch a VC fund. Launching a VC fund is not necessarily full-time all the time, but it's going to be full-time for certainly a big chunk of the period that you're raising. All right. So you have to have the time to do it. And it may be burst time, right? So you may, let's say you close a fund over a year. 4 or 5 months, you're going to have to work 40 hours a week on it. The other, 6-ish, 7 months, you can work less, right? Maybe 20 hours a week, maybe 30 hours a week, in that range. But there'll be periods, large periods of time where you have to work. So if you don't have the time, you're not going to score well. You're not going to get a 4. And look, we're not going to give you LPs. We're going to help you get LPs. You will meet some LPs through the program, but anyone who tells you you're going to get LPs is lying to you and a scammer. Okay. How do I know? Because we've launched half the funds in the world in the last couple of years. Okay. So we know that a lot of people are out there. Oh, I come to my conference in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and you're going to meet all these LP. It will be LP paradise, right? No, you're going to get scammed. Okay. You're going to meet people who might be an LP at some point in the way future, but not an LP in the present. So if you're coming and you're saying, I want LPs, it's like you have no grasp of reality. It would be like, I want Santa to come and bring me lots of gifts. God damn it, Santa didn't come. I did everything right. Like, Santa's never going to come. And LP paradise doesn't exist. Okay. So you're just not going to get limited partners from any program in the world. So if you go and ask, like, well, I need LPs, they're like, okay, you need an education that's not realistic. And I'm only going to put 10 hours a week into launching the fund. It's like, okay, well, Ed, you're going to fail. So you're asking for something, you're asking for Santa to come, and you're asking to do that without putting any time in. Both things are not realistic, so we can't let you in. Right? And you'll get a 1 or a 2 here. Next is the video. All right. Look professional, sound intelligent. We ask 2 questions and we say 2 minutes. And guess what? If you make the video long, right? Long or rambling, you're going to get a 2. So if you put a 4-minute video in a 2-minute slot, you're going to get a 2. So all you need to do is look professional and answer the questions, and you're going to get a 4. And then if you are actually answering the questions and it's like, wow, this person is really amazing, we're going to give you a 5. I mean, we've seen people on their exercise bike. Niels, do you want to come on here? You've seen some videos. What are some?
Yeah, like you said, if they're rambling or not getting to the point or a bit too floaty, like, yeah, we'll give it a 2, generally speaking.
Yeah. So guys, like, it's so easy to score well. The hard areas are up here, right? If you don't have the followers, it's hard to get followers on LinkedIn. Okay. If you have a not great background, it's not easy to get a great background. But you could take a few $100s and you could start making bets on or investments on an AngelList, and you can build a track record very quickly there, right? So it's not super hard, but it's not that easy. But the video is easy. Just look professional and answer the questions and keep it to 2 minutes. Okay. And like, you'll probably get a 4. So then what happens? So let's say I'm a 5 here. I'm a 5 here. Let's say my thesis sucks. My need isn't very good, which is pretty common. My video is not so good. And then we'll reload. And then we look at all time. So I will get a 5 because I got 2 5s here, but my average is a 3.2. And then the admissions person basically looks at all these variables and gives a score. And I can tell you there's a bell curve around 3. So there are very few 5s. There's a decent number of 4s. There's a ton of 3s. There's decent amount of 2s, and there's also kind of probably more 1s than 5s for sure. And here's yes, it's LinkedIn connection. Someone's asking questions, by the way, go into the Q&A. So if you have questions, put it in the Q&A. And if you do all this stuff, right, you can get like a 4, you'll be between a 3 and a 5, right? So, and then pretty much 5s will almost always get in, not always. 4s will almost always get in, like almost everyone that gets a 4 gets in. And then at the 3s, you're already in the like very maybe territory, right? Because between the 5s and the 4s, we normally will have 200 and something of 300 and something slots. All right, let that sink in. And when I say 2 something, I mean like 260. So then all the 3s, the 2s, and the 1s are fighting over maybe 40 slots. And it could be 1,000 people or more, right? So the numbers are sort of deceptive on the 10%, because if you don't have a high score, it's really like 90% of the people that score well, and like less than 1% of the people that score badly, because you'll have like 1,000 people competing for maybe 40 slots, right? Or more than 1,000 people, something like that, right? So so I'm trying to show you this so that you can see how our scoring system and our thinking and our admissions process work. So what I want to do now is start answering some of your questions. So everybody take a moment, put a question into the Q&A. If you see a question that you like, upvote it by putting thumbs up, and we'll go through and try and answer everything that everyone's asking. Okay, do you want to read them, Niels?
Yeah, happy to. Boris is asking, so you don't accept venture capitalists that have some experience working in a VC fund?
So we do. I'll hit answer live. So
Okay.
if you are part of a team, so let's you also have a question about team, Boris, so I'll answer them both. If you are part of a team, at the bottom of the application field, it says put a company name, and just make a company name up if you don't have one yet, but make sure that every team member uses the same company name. And if we accept one person from the team, we accept everybody from the team. Everyone on the team gets in if one person gets in, okay? So that's the team side. In terms of venture capital experience, yeah, venture capital experience counts a lot in a positive way. So if as I said, we have this field for experience that we rate 1 to 5. Investing experience counts a lot. Venture capital experience counts a lot. So you're almost definitely getting a 4 or higher if you've been some type of investor before, which includes venture capitalist, angel, etc. As long as you've been somewhat prolific. Okay. Do you want to get, remember to upvote questions as well and get your questions into the Q&A. You want to read the other one, Niels?
Happy to. Very easy question. When will applications for Cohort 12 open?
Cohort 12, and can you click answer live and archive them? Yeah, Cohort 12 applications are open right now. The program starts in August. I'm anticipating that we'll have as I said, roughly 3,000 in give or take. It's a weird time to start a program in sort of mid to late August. But what we're trying to do is get it to end at the end of 2023 so that people can get a vintage 2023 fund done. Some will slip and be early 2024. So we will have some vintage 2024 funds as well. But we're going after to try and help as many people get into vintage 2023. And let me double click on that for a minute. And while I do that, Niels, you can sort by upvotes and archive any question that might have be irrelevant. Vintage year is this #1 predictor of fund returns. #1, right? So, and I'll explain a little bit about it. Good vintage years, the funds are measured in deciles and quartiles. So the top decile funds, the top quartile, bottom decile, et cetera, right? So in a good vintage year, all those numbers go up. In a bad vintage year, all those numbers go down. And so what will happen is like a top decile fund in one vintage year might be like a middle performing fund in another vintage year. And that's how dramatic it is. Things shift so much that really vintage year is the predictor. You want to, as an LP, you want to get in the best vintage years. As a GP, you want to start in the best vintage years. And like almost everyone on the planet that understands venture capital is in agreement that 2023 will be one of the best vintage years in venture capital history, period, right? Period. So if you can start a firm in, maybe 2022 will be better. You don't really know until 6 or 7 years later how the vintage years perform. But anyone who's been around the industry for a long time is like, yeah, 2023 or 2022 or 2023 will be some of the best vintages ever. Okay. So if you're going to start a firm, like now is the time. Right? You want to get into cohort 12. All right, let's go with another question, Niels.
We have 2 questions that are sort of related, asking like, are there any like focus areas we are looking for in terms of thesis focus?
Yeah, and then you can archive them. So look, no, I mean, at the end of the day, though, we at VC Lab want to help people to change the world for the better. So for example, we let in what's called dual use funds. And these are funds that are helping things that come out of the military, right? So it's technology either used by the military or going to be used by the military that also has some commercial benefits, like drones, for example. Laser might be another one. I don't like dual use, right? So we're not going to spend a lot. We're not going to help dual use with our other offerings like Decile Partners or Decile Capital, but we will let dual use firms in because we think it's important to have as many venture capitalists as possible. But our preference is to find firms that are going to make the world a better place, right? That's why we're doing this. So we don't have a bias, but I'll take a good deep tech firm over a dual use firm any day, because dual use ultimately is helping the military, and the military ultimately leads to killing people, which is not really what we want to do. We want to help people. We want to make the world a better place. So I prefer climate tech. We prefer climate tech. We prefer segments in industries that are going to make the world a better place versus segments in industries that are, not so constructive. And again, dual use is sort of a gray area one. We would never let in a military fund. No way. So, but dual use, yes. Okay.
Someone's asking if they have a PhD in the area they're planning to invest in. Does that contribute to a strong background?
No. Look, I mean, it can, just studying something does not mean you're going to be a good investor, right? So a good background is like, maybe you have a PhD and you've done a lot of angel investing. Well, that's a good background. Or you have a PhD and you've run the leading accelerator in the space. Well, that's a good background. But just having a PhD itself doesn't make you a good investor.
Can you combine the program while doing a full-time job?
No. So you can do maybe the first 1 or 2 months of the 4-month program while you have a job, but towards the second 2 months, and then after the program, you're going to have to close your fund. That is going to take a full-time amount of effort. Closing is one of those periods. Remember, I said in the course of a year, there'll be a few months, like call it 5 months, maybe 3 to 6 months, that you're going to definitely have to work full-time. And one of those periods is your first close, but actually around every single close that you do, and you'll do multiple closings with the fund, you're going to have to work on it full time. And that they normally take a few months. So if you do 2 months for your first close, 2 months for your second close, 2 months for your third close, and you're lucky enough to get 3 closes done in a year, there's 6 months of full-time work that you're going to need to do.
Augusto is applying alongside his co-founders as they have complementary profiles, and is asking, are co-founder profiles evaluated individually? And if one is strong enough, do both get in, or how does that work?
Yeah, we look at them both individually and collectively. So both. So we look at you as an individual applicant. We look at your co-partner as an individual applicant. And then we look at you as a team. Now, a lot of times, like, look, if you have 8 partners and like 1 is good and 7 are weak, you're not getting in. Okay. There's no such thing as venture capital firms with 8 partners. All right. Unless you're like Sequoia, that's been around for a few decades. So any new firm starts with 1, 2, 3 partners, maybe 4. Right? But you're looking at a bell curve, and 2 is the top of the curve, 4 is already an outlier, and it's kind of thick at 1. So tons of 66% of new managers are solo GPs. The next big one is 2 people, and then by the time you're at 3, it's fallen off a cliff, right? So yeah, if you come in with 8 people and 1 or 2 are strong and the remainder are weak, we're probably not going to let you in, because we just don't want the drama of your team breaking up in the program, which happens quite often.
Another question about team dynamics. Do we help people find partners for their VC firm?
Yeah, thank you. So look, no. Okay. And okay. You're going to work with your partner for 16 years. Okay. In your VC firm. Okay. Let me just be super clear again. 16 years. That's like the inside. Like, if things go horribly wrong, you're going to get into a massive fight. It's going to be really dramatic, usually, not always, but more often than not. And you might work together less than 16 years, but and which is not what you want, because then your whole fund fails. You've wasted all this time. It's a mess. But if you have any success and you're doing it, like any success, because these things take long, right? So to start the fund and build fund 1 is 10 to 12 years. Now, if you're starting to do okay on fund 1, you're going to launch fund 2, like within around 2 years or so. So now you're somewhere around 14 years. And then you'll do another fund 3, in about 2 years after that, if things are going well again. So then you add another 2 years. So now you're around 16 years. Okay. So you're going to be working together for 16 years. All right. You cannot meet this person in a program. And if you do, if programs are like, yeah, you can meet co-GPs in our programs, This is part of the problem of the industry. They should never say that. There's no way you're going to meet someone at an event and decide to work together for 16 years, right? 16 years. All right. I promise that most of the people on this call that are married haven't been married for 16 years, and you dated your partner for longer than a day and a half, right? So look, that's why usually if you're going to work with someone, you're going to need to know them for 5 years, 6 years, because it's not like you're dating them and getting married, right? So it's like you could probably date someone for a year or two and get married, and then you really know them because you're living together, you're going out all the time, you're traveling together, whatever. But when you're not, like, if you're not in that type of intensive relationship, you need time to get to know someone. So 5 years, I would say, is your minimum amount of time that you should know someone before you consider entering venture capital with them. Period. End of story. And if anyone says they can introduce you to people to be your co-GP, they have no idea what they're talking about. They're full of poo.
Okay. Is Cohort 12 different from the Venture Institute? What are the differences?
Yeah, they're not the same at all. The Venture Institute is a training program for people that don't understand venture capital very well and want to understand really how it works. So everything from what's the purpose of venture capital, how to LP, everything about it. Okay. VC Lab, it's a learning program, Venture Institute, right? Total learning program. You will learn about venture capital, and we're doing it so people get jobs in venture capital as associates, as venture partners, and possibly even as partners, right? But it's a learning program. VC Lab, you will launch an enduring venture capital firm. And if you don't launch the firm, we kick you out, right? So it's like, and by the way, if you finish the program and you don't close on capital, which happens, we remove you as an alumni, right? We're like, well, you never closed, you're out, right? So the 350 firms that have finished the program, they are either in process of closing right now or have closed. Everyone else has been moved out. So VC Lab is for the cream of the crop to launch an enduring venture capital firm. Venture Institute is to learn about venture capital to get a job in the industry.
We have some more program-related questions. Let's combine these two. So how frequent are the cohorts? And if someone doesn't get accepted in one cohort, can they apply for the next one?
Yeah, so we're running VC Lab cohorts 4 times a year. The Venture Institute cohorts, we just did one. It had way too much demand. Like we were like, whoa, we had to close applications a month early and anger a lot of talented people because demand was too high. So we'll probably do Venture Institute twice a year is my guess. But we have not planned a second one. The first one just like completely caught us by surprise. But VC Lab, we run 4 times a year. And if you apply to cohort 12 or any previous cohort and you didn't get in, we'll send you an email to move your application over. I'll probably do another of those emails soon. And you can move your application over. Now let's talk about that. So you can reapply to the future one pretty easily. But guys, don't just move it over and not change it. We also look at if you changed it, and we look at the changes you made. And so if you move your application over and you haven't changed it, it's possible you'll get in because a lot of times they're the first applications we review. So it's not 0, but it's super unlikely. Your best bet is to actually edit the application and make it better. And I just gave you a ton of insights on how to do that. So you can move it over very easily. Just click a link, it moves right over. But I strongly encourage you to improve it. Because what the other thing that's happening is we're growing the number of applicants per cohort, and the quality of the applicants on the whole is increasing. So if you have to have a better applicant or application to get in, because it's possible you'll get in, but if you don't make improvements, and let's say you did get in, but you couldn't do it, you got sick or whatever, you had a family emergency, you had a work thing, whatever, okay? So you got in to cohort, let's say 12, but you don't, you say, I'm going to do it on 13. So then we move your application over to 13. Now you may have a really great application compared to others in cohort 12, but it might not be that great compared to others in cohort 13. And that definitely happens. And it's like, well, we let them in, but now they're not as good as our 5s. So we really can't, they're not a 5 anymore. Then we look at the 4s and we're like, they're not really, they're kind of on the bottom of the 4 list. And so let's see how many we have if we can make room for that. Right. So it is really important to update your application between these. Okay.
Another application question. Someone's planning to apply as a team and is asking, should we all use the same video in each application, or do they use separate ones?
Yeah, I recommend you use, and guys, get your questions in, because we're running out of questions, but we have a little more time. And this, usually what happens is there's a bunch of questions that people are like, oh, wait, and then they get them in, and then we're out like 2 minutes left. So we have 12 minutes or 10 minutes left. So get those questions into the Q&A down below. There's someone who put a question in the chat, put it in the Q&A, please. We're not monitoring the chat for questions. Okay. So you should use the same video as a team. Keep in mind, 2 minutes. So you get on Zoom and you got to talk a little fast and sort of plan it out a little bit and record it. But we get Zoom recordings of team pitches that fit 2 minutes and are great all the time. So get on Zoom, record the video as a team, and you'll do great.
Another question about applying as a team. If one GP is full-time and there's 2 GPs in total, can the other GP be part-time and still succeed in the program?
Listen. You're not going to have a good relationship with your partner if you're full-time and they're part-time. And you can move the economics around all you want. Here, we have never seen that you're building an enduring venture capital firm, right? And if you're working 40, 60 hours a week trying to close, and your partner is working 5 to 6, maybe 10 hours, they're like, no, I'm doing 20, but in practice, it's not 20. It's going to be, you're going to have resentment. And you're like, why do they have all this carry? Why am I'm doing all the work. They're doing almost nothing. We just don't see those situations really work out ever. So make them a venture partner, right? Venture partners get no more than 10% carry, and you can fire them and take it all back if they're not performing, because they'll vest. Right. So there's something called the venture share agreement. Maybe Niels, you could share a link to it in the chat. Check out that. And if someone's not willing to pull the weight with you starting a firm, make them a venture partner, and you'll thank me later. Someone's saying, I'll be full-time on my fund starting in November this year. Can I still apply for cohort 12, or should I wait for cohort 13? What I would say is, like, November, maybe, look, your first 2 months of the program, which will be August into September and September into October, you could probably get by with about 25 hours a week, right? So by the time you start moving into November, though, you need to be doing like 30, 40 hours a week, right? So if you're quitting and all that stuff works out great, you should be able to do it. But if there's any delays or you're not able to put the time in, then there's going to be a problem. Okay, is there any other questions that I can help with? Any want me to take a look at their application now? Otherwise, I can leave and put it into the Q&A. And if otherwise, I'll leave you with some closing thoughts. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, well, you know what I'm going to do, actually, Neil, since we have a minute of time here, I'm going to show you some of the tools that we have available for you. And these are free as well. So the program is completely free. The tools are completely free, and they give you this unfair advantage. And what we want to do is, because we're trying to change venture capital into a force for good in the world, we want to give our managers an unfair advantage so that they're just like so much better than all the other managers out there in the world today, even established managers. They're just so much better, right? So not only is our program world-class, 88 NPS, right, 88 Net Promoter Score, but our tools are world-class. And I want to show you something just to that effect. So this is the back office toolkit that you get for free by just being in the program. And so you have all your pipelines here, you have digital signing, all this stuff. But I want to show you something in particular that's pretty cool. We launched something called Decile Base, which is a Stack Overflow for venture capital, but it uses an LLM, a large language. It uses actually ChatGPT's APIs, and it only sucks answers from our database of questions and answers. And all those answers came from experts. So it's not like rando answers in like Quora or whatever. These are domain experts in venture capital that have answered any question. So you can do any question. What is a capital call? Right? Now, you see it down there. You could select it, or you can just hit return like I just did right now. My internet's a little slow, so give it a second. It's connecting. And look at it. It generates in real time an answer for you, based on all the questions. And so you can ask it literally anything about venture capital and you will get an answer. Let me try a more difficult one. Can you transfer an SPV into a VC fund? Now, copy. I'm having internet issues, as you can see. All right, there we go. Look at that. Boom. No, you cannot transfer. They're like and that's the right answer, right? Any question you have on venture capital, you can get answered instantly with our tech, with our back office, and that's free. Think about how game-changing that is for you as a manager. Like, no other manager in the world has that ability. They have to call a lawyer. They have to call an accountant. They have to call Lala. They're going to, sometimes those accountants aren't available right away. And then they are going to get a bill for that question. And that bill is going to be in the thousands of dollars normally, right? And you can just ask any question and you're going to get it answered. And by the way, if it doesn't have the answer, unlike the language models, in the world today because it only can answer things that it has answers for in the database. It will actually say, I don't have the answer, right? And then it allows you to post the question, and then our experts will answer it, and then it will be in the database for the future. So our whole thing is to give you this like insane, unfair advantage to win, because we want to change the asset class into a force for good in the world and fix the problems that are plaguing this planet. And there's really, look, I saw the questions about, oh, is it the right time or whatever? Let me tell you something. The world is on fire. All right. It's not clear how much time we have. It's just not clear how much time we have. All right. So we have to move. And if are you part of the problem or part of the solution? And if you're part of the solution, everyone at VC Lab, everyone at Decile Group will be 100% behind your back to help you win, because we need to win, or we're going to really be in a bad shape on this planet. So there's a couple last questions in there. I'll answer them, then we'll wrap. What's the minimum fund size? Really, you can't do a fund for less than $2 million. And that's in the US and Delaware, because just the fees and expenses will get to above 10% of the fund size, and that's not viable. So 2.5 million is your smallest viable fund. And what are the most important factors for success in launching a VC? Look, VC is a networking business. So you have to have a network. You have to have a good thesis. You have to, you're going to take a lot of hustle. And if you have the network, if you have a good thesis, you have a decent background, you have some hustle, you're going to win, right? And we're going to help you win, right? We're going to give you that unfair advantage that you need to be number one. With that said, it's 9 o'clock on the dot. So we're going to end perfectly on time. This was awesome, everyone. Thank you so much.